Well, a very,
Bluetooth
very happy
disconnected.
Tuesday, and
Bluetooth
welcome to
connected.
another episode of the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin. It has been a few weeks since I have last recorded an episode. I've had some issues and some personal things, matters to attend to, but we're back at it. I got a lot of things to talk about to you this afternoon. So let's get ready. Let's get right down into business because it is the beginning of the NBA season as two games begin today. Kicking things off at 7:30 p.m. will be the Houston Rockets taking on the Oklahoma City Thunders. And then to wrap things up
Bluetooth
later on
disconnected.
tonight, we
Bluetooth
have the
connected.
Golden State Warriors taking on the Los Angeles Lakers. That tip off is at 10 p.m. NBA season is finally underway. This is where we see absolutely the most of everything when it comes down to sports because we got the World Series about to begin on Friday, and we'll talk about that. We have the NHL season clearly underway. We have the NBA season that just got started. Football season is in the midst of its season. We have
Bluetooth
MLS
disconnected.
well into their
Bluetooth
season.
connected.
And so, look, it's sports, you guys. It's fall. Halloween's next week. Fall season's here. Winters will be right around the corner. If you're a sports fan, you love it. If you're not a sports fan, well, this isn't for you. Anyways, so NBA kicks off this season. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not necessarily a huge basketball fan. And, over the years, I've always struggled. I think basketball, soccer, and hockey has been three of the,
Bluetooth disconnected.
national sports here that
Bluetooth
I've
connected.
struggled so much to get behind and to watch. I don't know if it's the schedule, if it's maybe the format of it. I can't put my finger on it. I've struggled. What I've noticed, I just turned 30 earlier this year. What I've noticed is that I've been more gravitated to college football. So I don't know. Maybe I'm getting that gene. Also, like a little bit more golf here. Maybe it's just me getting older. But, I'm still struggling to
Bluetooth
find
disconnected.
myself
Bluetooth
energetic
connected.
into basketball, especially at the pro level. I've been more fascinated in paying attention to college basketball and college football more so than NHL and the NBA. And I just can't explain it. It's just something that I've just gravitated over the last few years. And I've just realized that I've enjoyed it more and more since then. So, the one thing that I don't like about NBA is that
Bluetooth
this is spread out. It
Bluetooth
starts
connected.
here the end of October. It doesn't end until April, which that's not what I'm worried about. But it seems to me that players just do not play. And I've noticed that they have this they've done this little tournament at the beginning of the season that just started a couple years ago. And I don't know how much that really honestly, encourages the players to play for something. And I don't feel like you get a lot of this when it comes down to football or it comes down to hockey or even baseball. It feels like you play from day one and you play
Bluetooth
until the end of the
disconnected.
season,
Bluetooth
regardless
connected.
if you're in a postseason, contingency or not. Now, I'm going to propose one thing, and I may be crazy for even thinking about this, but if anyone who listens to basketball, anyone who listens to NBA, who's part of that, if you're paying attention, you might call me crazy, but I'm going to propose one thing. I'm going to propose a minor league format for the NBA. And I think I've done this before on a previous show. I propose that you divide the season in half and you divide the standings in half. And and
Bluetooth
you have the
disconnected.
first half of the season
Bluetooth connected.
where the winner of the first half of the season will lock themselves into the postseason. Okay? The top teams from each conference will make it to the postseason, guaranteed. And then at the then you have the second half where the score, everyone goes back to 0-0. Then you play the second half of the season. Obviously, who's won, and the advantage of who wins the first half of the season is that they could focus on staying healthy and getting ready for the postseason. While
Bluetooth
you have teams who are now you kind of start that slate fresh, right? Where now you can have players, or you have teams who maybe be, hey, we're eliminated by, January, maybe February. We have a new opportunity to create, to get into the postseason. So my proposal is this. I would propose the season for the NBA to be split in half. You would have the winners of the
Bluetooth disconnected.
first half of the season, and then the
Bluetooth
winners
connected.
of the second half of the season, and then you'd have your wild cards. I don't know exactly maybe how that format will go. Maybe you take the top two teams from each conference and divide them up that way. And it's a proposal, because now you give NBA players and teams the opportunity and the encouragement to play basketball for at least this October, November, December portion of the season. If you could get teams may play better in the first half of the year than they do the second half of the year. And I just find it more of a competitive game throughout the course of the season than I normally would today. So I don't know. If you guys are listening, I want to hear it. Where you guys could let me know what you guys think, is head on over to our YouTube channel and find one of the comment pages, leave us a comment, because I want to hear what you guys think about NBA basketball. But I'm ready for this season, and I'm going to do my best. I'm not going to be able to follow all of it left and right, but I'm going to do my best to stay up to date and to keep you guys going
Bluetooth
when it comes down to the NBA.
Bluetooth
So
connected.
we'll talk a little bit about that, as the season progresses. But NBA kicks off tonight. 2 games: Rockets, Thunder, 7:30, and Warriors, Lakers at 10 o'clock. All right. Football season, or not football season. I'm going to get to that later. Baseball season. The World Series matchups and the games are underway. We're about to begin them. That will begin this Friday, October 24th, on Fox. You can watch the World Series. It's a best out of 7 series. At 8 p.m., the Dodgers will take on the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays will have home field advantage. They will play 2 games at home. They will go over to Dodger Stadium, play 3 there. And if necessary, they'll go back to Toronto and play the Blue Jays in Toronto. I think this is great. I think it's a great matchup. I think whether it was Seattle or Toronto, these matchups were going to be phenomenal. Look, this Dodgers team has this golden ticket. I don't know what it is, but they remind me, they are the Kansas City Chiefs of baseball. Okay, and vice versa. The conversation goes both ways. The Dodgers
Bluetooth disconnected. Bluetooth connected.
They just have all the pieces together. And I just, they are, to me, the favorites to win the World Series. Any doubt, any any questions that you may have had for the Dodgers, if they're still relevant, if they were still capable of winning the big games, if they were still capable of winning the division because the Padres were testing them later in the season, Well, guess what? All that's out the window. They go in and they sweep. They sweep the Reds in the wild card series. They beat the Phillies
Bluetooth
in the
disconnected.
NLDS,
Bluetooth
and then they
connected.
swept the Milwaukee Brewers in the NLCS. And I think that just shows to you just how good this Dodgers team is. I'm putting aside for a moment the players, who they have, what they're capable of. They have been a dominant dynasty for the last decade and a half. They've always been relevant. They've always been in big conversations. You know, they run the West. They run the National League. Okay, no matter how good we want to proclaim Philadelphia is or Milwaukee
Bluetooth
had,
disconnected.
I'll give them credit.
Bluetooth
They have
connected.
had, you know, Philadelphia's had a better year than the Dodgers. Milwaukee has had a better year than the Dodgers. It shows it on their record. But the Dodgers, it doesn't matter if they're home, if they're away, if they have their backs up against the wall. They're capable of pulling it off when it matters the most, and they showed it to you so far in this postseason. They're heading into the wild card. They're heading to the World Series, and they have the opportunity to do it again. The Toronto Blue Jays, look, I mean, they have a lot of well-known names. You know, Bichette, Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
Bluetooth disconnected.
They're just
Bluetooth
endless.
connected.
Max Scherzer. I mean, the Blue Jays in the American League, I think, have been overlooked this postseason. And I say that just because I think the fan favorite heading into the postseason this year was Seattle, because you've had this historical catcher, Cal Raleigh, having this monumental season. And Seattle's never been to a World Series. They've never been able to win in this, in the big territory. They knocked off the Houston Astros in the postseason. I mean, I think heading into the American League postseason, it's fair to say that Seattle
Bluetooth
was a fan
disconnected.
favorite
Bluetooth
going
connected.
forward, as if not go to the World Series. Toronto prevails. They're down 3-2. They win Game 6, wins Game 7 at home, and they're advancing on. And I think this sparks attention. If any team that could beat them, it's definitely this Blue Jays teams. And we will see this Friday as things kick off. Now, it's the best out of 7 series, so we will get at least 2 games in Toronto, 2 games in Los Angeles. But it has all come down to this. And so we'll see what happens there. That is what's going on here right now to pay attention to in our sports world.
Bluetooth
I want to talk
disconnected.
about, I know
Bluetooth
it's been a couple
connected.
weeks since we've talked about this, but I want to talk some professional wrestling, specifically the Seth Rollins injury. And I know I'm kind of late to that party, but I do want to have a brief conversation before we head into Saturday night main event. Not this Saturday, but next Saturday. We'll talk about the Cincinnati Bengals, who beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, which was a really big shock, big surprise. We'll talk about the standings, possibly what it really looks like for the schedule ahead of us. Are we back in it? And all that fun stuff from Week 7 of the NFL.
Bluetooth disconnected.
Before we get into any
Bluetooth
of those
connected.
conversations, though, let's get you around the horn for Cincinnati sports. This past week, we've had the Cincinnati Cyclones have their home opener tip-off this past Saturday against the Wheeling Nailers. They ended up falling short on opening day, 5-3, as they lost. They will have another chance this Friday when they take on the Fort Wayne Comets at 7:30 p.m. It will be a Peanuts Great Pumpkin Jersey night. Enjoy $5 craft beers and seltzers, $1 popcorn, $3 burgers. Character appearances will be Snoopy and Charlie Brown ahead of this Halloween experience here. Tickets are still available. Get your tickets at CincinnatiCyclones.com. I'm kind of eager. I want to check out a game later on this season, hopefully. But they're always a fun thing to go to if you have nothing going on around town here this weekend. I encourage you guys to check them out. But it's been fun when it comes down to football, right? I mean, college football has been doing a number of tricks. Ohio State shut out Wisconsin over the weekend, 34-0. Julian Sayin, he went 36 for 42 through 394 yards with 4 touchdowns. Cornell Tate had 2 of those touchdowns. He went 6 receptions for 111 yards. They're off this weekend, but Buckeyes are back at it as they host Penn State on November 1st. Mark that on your calendars. You know, listen, Kentucky's not really having a great season. They've been losing some very close games. It just hasn't been the same for a while. They fell short in overtime against Texas, 16-13, thanks to a Mason Shipley's 45-yard field goal win. Kentucky moves to 2-4 in the season. They're 0-4 in conference play.
Bluetooth disconnected.
You know, I love listening and watching Ohio State Buckeyes. I've always been at the top of the football here in recent years. Love enjoying their success, and there's been already conversations this part of the season about Julian Sayin being the Heisman Trophy winner. But you know what's another thing that's fun to watch around here are the Cincinnati Bearcats, as they really are really having themselves an NCAA football season to remember, as they beat Oklahoma State 49-17 back on Saturday. Braden Sorsby 20 for 29, 270 yards, 3 touchdowns. As they host Baylor next week, this coming up Saturday. Look, it's a tough division. I was looking at this. I think it's a tough conference for them. Big 12. And they got to deal with teams like BYU, Arizona State, Houston, Iowa State, TCU, Kansas State. And the competition is there. And I remember when they first moved to the Big 12, it wasn't going to be easy. You got new teams, new formats. You're getting more primetime television, which I think is always important to deal with. But man, I tell you, it's disconnected. They have been able. I don't know what's going on with the Bearcats, but it's been fun to watch. I've been always finding them on TV. According to reports that I've seen around on social media, they're going to be sliding in slots in the big, in these big conference primetime games. They're also eligible now for a Pro Bowl this year, which for me, I think the ultimate goal in college football is to win yourself a college football championship. And for a team, any of these teams, they're already underdogs when it comes to having a spot
Bluetooth
in the best out of 12 in the in the tournament. So for me, I'm just one of those guys who, I look for the success. And this first step is not to have a winning season, is to have a good record against conference play, and to then hopefully be eligible and be selected to participate into a bowl game. And right now, Cincinnati, they're 4-0 in conference play, tied with BYU. They're 6-1 overall. They're ranked number 24, which I think is a great first step.
Disconnected.
And they're just, just a few points, they're just right behind BYU. And I think that for me is an excitement for the Bearcats. And when I look at the upcoming schedule for the Bearcats here, we have this Saturday. It's going to be on ESPN2. You have at Utah the following week. I think you have a bye. Then you'll have take on Arizona. You'll have BYU November 22nd at home. And I feel like, depending of how the outcomes goes over the next 3 weeks, you're lining yourself up for a very big game November 22nd. And we may see them. This is how, if we remain at the top of the division or the
Bluetooth
conference,
disconnected.
we may see them
Bluetooth
November
connected.
22nd, but we may also see them again in the Big 12 championships. So this is what's fun. They're playing really good football. They're having fun at it. And I really enjoy it. And I hope you guys enjoy it too, because it's very, because this doesn't come every year. I think Cincinnati fights to have success with their sports teams. All right, before we get into conversations with the NFL, I want to jump ship over to
Bluetooth disconnected.
WWE, professional wrestling, specifically.
Bluetooth connected.
Specifically in the conversation of this Seth Rollins injury that we have seen. So for those who have not been paying attention, Seth Rollins beat Cody Rhodes a few weeks ago at Crown Jewel, and he ended up Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed the night after ends up betraying Seth Rollins and takes him out. This forces Seth Rollins to vacate the World Heavyweight Championship on Monday. And now we are going to see come up here on November 1st at Saturday Night Main Event in Salt Lake City, Utah. We will see CM Punk take on Jey Uso for the World Heavyweight Championship. Apparently, according to sources, Seth Rollins is dealing with a torn rotator cuff, which he got hurt at Crown Jewel. I know, you get when you've seen a talent like Seth Rollins, who's played the injure factor before, just to be able to come back and use it against an opponent, you kind of question what is true and what is not. Like I said, according to reports, he is going to have surgery. He could be out. There's no definite time, but usually a rotator cuff injury can give you 6 to 12 months. So we probably won't look back into November, December, January, February, March, April. At least WrestleMania, if not longer. So if that is the case, I wish Seth Rollins a speedy recovery. And it looks like how WWE played this was, I believe, a step forward in what the storyline was already going to be, when that is Seth Rollins being betrayed by Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed. Now, look, I don't think Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed need a Seth Rollins to make them relevant. What they have accomplished without Seth Rollins be right beside them has been a lot, and we already know the upgrowth of Bron Breakker specifically. So I don't, I'm glad we're moving on from this, because I don't think we need to carry it on any longer, especially if Seth Rollins is going to be out. But for me, I honestly, I think Bron Breakker is worth more. I do see him as the future, as a champion. Whether I don't know what title he would take. I could see him take both the world or the WWE champion, but I see promising things out of both men, and I think that they impact and they benefit most from being with Paul Heyman, and that's how I look at how this story has developed. Why are the decisions being made? And so, I like the Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed split off. Unfortunately, it comes a lot sooner as we see Seth Rollins injured. I was a little disappointed that we didn't see Bron Breakker already being filled into the role as a contender for the World Heavyweight Champion already. I feel like at some point he will take the title from a CM Punk or a Jey Uso, whoever wins. But, I guess when I'm looking at this timeline, and I'm looking at how we put the pieces together, what we've seen already this year, Jey Uso had this world heavyweight
Bluetooth
championship
disconnected.
removed from him
Bluetooth connected.
by Gunther. And I don't, if you would have wanted to keep this title reign keep going, I question why we would want to stick with Jey Uso. Yeah, he's had this WrestleMania run, which I think he's had a lot of fan base behind it. He's been up and down but he lost it to Gunther. He hasn't been the same since losing that title again. And I don't necessarily think that that's one of these directions are the right direction. You gave CM Punk a championship to win, and he won it at SummerSlam just to lose it. So something will give. One of these men will become champion, but I'm interested to see how long. And I guess where I'm trying to come from at this angle here is that you've already given the title to Jey Uso, and you took it away from him. You attempted to give the title to CM Punk, and you quickly took that away from him. So why are we putting them back in the same picture? I mentioned Bron Breakker, who is just, he's been, he took Seth Rollins out. I kind of feel like it's only right to put him in that position. But also, and I can see that run for a while, but also there's other guys like I think Jimmy Uso, LA Knight, who's been in this shuffle mix, who also deserve an equal opportunity that I don't feel they're getting. And it's one thing to be considered and to be in matches that have championship implications, but it's another thing to get there to be the number one contender. And I think we're allowing LA Knight, who's such a talent, he's not getting any younger. He's really talented. He has a fan base, and it's going right over his head because the WWE just has not been able to place him there if that's what his goal is. And if I'm LA Knight, I kind of be upset. Hey, my time is due. I paid my time. I paid my dues. When is my time to shine? It's not just good enough anymore to be in the main event, to be in the spotlight. So, yeah, I like a CM Punk and a Jey Uso. I think that is a solid match for a Saturday night main event. But I question, really, we've already had two men who's gone for the titles, won the titles, quickly dropped the titles. So where is that direction going, and where does it make sense?
Bluetooth connected.
So that's kind of the things that I'm asking there at that table. Alrighty. Week 7 has come and gone in the NFL. I think we've had some fun being able to watch. I know I was very impressed, and I told you this. It's not because I don't like the Bengals. I love the Bengals. I want them to win. But when you have 4 consecutive losses and you get embarrassed week after week after week, I struggle to support a team that just has an issue. And we really don't know the direction. I don't know how they did it, but the Bengals were able to pull it off on Thursday night, 33-31. Thank you, Evan McPherson, for the game-winning field goal. And I'm just going to draw it out like this. I loved this Joe Flacco deal. I was skeptic early on, don't get me wrong, but I have come to love this deal with Joe Flacco. And I say this because he's been in the league for 18 years. He's well educated in the division. He
disconnected.
I feel like, yes, his game plan has changed, and I don't think it's the same as what the Bengals are trying to run with Joe Burrow, but he's able to read a defense. He's able to adapt to a defense and make changes at front and center during play calling a lot better than Jake Browning. Jake Browning looked like he didn't know what he was doing. He looked like he was hesitant. He looked like he was just running the plays that he was running, and he didn't have this open one. And I'll tell you this: here's what I see out of quarterbacks. You have to be able to read a defense.
Bluetooth disconnected.
You have to be
Bluetooth
able to
connected.
call plays and change things throughout the course of a game. And even you may win some, you may lose some, but if you're Jake Browning, you have to feel comfortable taking that risk. It's always easier to ask for forgiveness than to say, well, I didn't take that chance. And so I just felt as if Jake Browning struggled in doing that. He was very stiff. He was very one-dimensional. And, Joe Flacco provides at least a 2, if not 3-dimensional type quarterback. He's not, yes, he is still stiff, but he is still,
Bluetooth connected.
he was still able to move this team. He went 342 yards with 3 touchdowns. Chase Brown, 11 carries with 100 yards. Jamar Chase had 16 receptions for 161 yards and a touchdown. And it just felt good to have this offense perform, finally outbidding. And I think it even feels better when you could beat your own division team rival in the Steelers. The Steelers currently in first place. They're now 4-3, right? And the Ravens had a bye week this past weekend. They're 1-5, and the Browns beat the Dolphins 31-6. They're now 2-5. So, the Steelers and the Browns, 3 games apart from each other. Okay? 3 games apart from each other, and we're sitting here with just 1 game out of the postseason, or out of the first place in the AFC North. And what's good about this is that we have the tiebreaker currently when it comes down to if the playoff season started today. And so, if we continue our ways, then, anything's possible.
Bluetooth disconnected. Bluetooth connected.
So I do, I think it brought a little bit of life back into the fan base, a little bit of hope, especially how it continues. Now, here's what I'm looking at here, right? So 3 weeks ago, when we lost when we beat 4 weeks ago, let me put it that way. 4 to 5 weeks ago, we were sitting here when we lost Joe Burrow, and we were trying to come up with this magic number for the Bengals in order to, hey, what is it going to take for us to contend? Because Burrow's injury doesn't look like he's going to be back until about
Bluetooth
Christmas
disconnected.
time. I think everyone has December
Bluetooth
21st
connected.
marked on the calendars. It's in Miami. Depending where we're at in the postseason, we may even push him out to the 27th, which will be at home against Arizona. But we're kind of coming up, well, what does that magic number look like to even want to bring Burrow back? Because if we're not in a postseason hunt, if we're not anywhere near a wild card or a division win, I wouldn't bring Joe Burrow back this year at all. I say go get better, get ready for next season, and come back, and we'll try it again next year. So, but I think when we talked about this back in September, it
Bluetooth
was
disconnected.
I think 5.
Bluetooth connected.
The magic number was 5. So this was before Minnesota, and we lost the 4 games. I wish we would at least won 1, unfortunately. And then we had the win against Steelers, which could bring us some momentum. Looking ahead, right, we have the Jets this weekend. It's a 1:00 game at home. And then we have the Bears next weekend. It's a 1:00 game at home before a bye. I would honestly, yeah, like I said, the magic number's 5. We have the first win under this realm
Bluetooth disconnect.
against Pittsburgh, so
Bluetooth
that's
connected.
1. So I would argue that maybe a W for both week 8 and week 9, it could be in hindsight. We'd have a bye in week 10, but then come back in week 11. We'll be in Pittsburgh before coming back home for the Patriots. And then we have a 3-game stretch here over Thanksgiving into the middle of December where we play Baltimore and we play Buffalo. And we play Baltimore again. So we have 7 games before we could look at Joe Burrow possibly returning. And I look at this.
Bluetooth disconnect. Bluetooth connected.
And if I think that we have a logistics shot, because look, despite the Ravens being 1-5, I know Buffalo's going to be a struggle. We're in Buffalo. And I know it's early December, but playing in Buffalo with what we have is going to be a challenge. We'd also play in Baltimore Thanksgiving, right? So, we have 2 back-to-back road games against, I just know, tough opponents, regardless of what their record holds or where they're at in the postseason.
Disconnected.
And
Bluetooth connected.
then if we can survive those 2, we got to come back and do it again against Baltimore at home before we even think about Joe Burrow coming back. I already know that portion. I can't get that far ahead into the season. So we kind of get up to here. I'm kind of looking ahead over the next 4 games, including that bye, plus the bye. We have the Jets, Bears, and the Patriots at home out of the next 5 weeks. We're on a bye when we're over in Pittsburgh to get things back going. So our best bet is that we have to win 4.
Bluetooth disconnected. Bluetooth connected.
Right? 4. That would put us at 7-3, or 7-4 of the year. And maybe we'll be in postseason contingency. So what I'm looking at, we need a win against the Jets. So we need a win against the Bears. We would have to win the next 4 games, which will be in Pittsburgh and then home to the Patriots, because I don't want to have to come down to winning a game against Baltimore or even Buffalo to put us in this conversation of a wild card.
Bluetooth connected.
I also don't necessarily want to look at this playoff picture right now because we're still a bit ways behind, right? I know they're taking the 7 teams, they take the 7 teams, which right now will be cut off at Jacksonville, but then we're 2 slots behind it and we're a game behind. But we sit alone at the 9th spot at 3-4 because Houston and everyone else, Houston, Las Vegas, Cleveland, Baltimore, Miami, Tennessee, and New York has a worse record than us right now. Kansas City, Jacksonville, the Chargers, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Denver, New England, Indianapolis have the better record.
Bluetooth disconnected.
And so when we look at our future schedule between now and when we could possibly see Joe Burrow coming back, I see New England is our top threat, Pittsburgh's second, and then Buffalo. But we cannot ignore, like I mentioned, what Baltimore has in store for us. And if you jump over to the NFC, where do the Bears face? They're currently at 2-4. So we cannot underestimate what the Bears have to offer. Our schedule is worked out ahead of us, but if anyone has an opportunity, and this is why I say it's important to have this win against the Steelers, I'm willing to look past the 4 losses we've had against Minnesota, Denver, Green Bay, and Detroit. if we're capable of making something happen and beating the Jets, beating the Bears at home, and possibly be either beating the Steelers again or even the Patriots, I wouldn't even look at right now at Baltimore or even Buffalo because things can very well change come Thanksgiving time. But man, I think I could just sit back, and I'm not trying to like make
Bluetooth
excuses. I
disconnected.
just think I just sit back and I can just take
Bluetooth
a breath
connected.
over what we were able to do. And I think that just hopefully brings a little bit more confidence heading into this weekend. And listen, it starts with this game. We won. We got that out of the way. We can win with Joe Flacco. Now we move into what can we do? Can we win 2 games with Joe Flacco and go week by week? Unfortunately. Talking about the Joe Flacco, our quarterback at the moment. I still hear, it's been a couple weeks since he's been traded, but I still hear a lot of the conversations, a lot of Cleveland
disconnected.
fans that are just
Bluetooth connected.
dogs are barking at the gates. We've heard it, stuff been said by Mike Tomlin and the Steelers, Ravens, so on and so forth. So, but I've had some time to think about this. And I kind of want to just share my thoughts about this whole trade between the Bengals and the Browns. Now, we know the Bengals side of football. We needed a quarterback. Jay Browning was not performing the way he wanted to perform, and we just needed someone else with a little bit more experience and maybe just a fresh look. And we took advantage. And I want to say thank you to the Browns because we
Bluetooth disconnected.
practically gave nothing
Bluetooth
for him.
connected.
Flacco was on the bench. His time, it seemed like it was to be done with the Browns. And instead of releasing him and having to pay him whatever he's worth, you got a 6th-round draft pick from us. And we also got back a 5th-round draft pick. So, I think that we won this deal, regardless of what the outcome is. But I'm trying to look at things in a different perspective. See, you had a quarterback that you picked up as a free agent and you also picked up 2 quarterbacks,
Bluetooth
in the draft this past year.
Bluetooth connected.
Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. And I'm just thinking about this out loud. The goal is to either have, Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders be your future quarterback. So you not brought one in, you brought 2 quarterbacks in hope to shape them for Cleveland success. We obviously know what Cleveland has had to offer in recent years at the quarterback position. In the meantime, though, I think the strategy is to bring in a veteran quarterback so you can ease these rookie quarterbacks in. And you brought in Joe Flacco. You want to keep him, and Joe Flacco provided you a few weeks of getting Dylan Gabriel ready for the NFL to start as a starting quarterback. And I think that was the game plan all along. I feel like the game plan was that they're going to bring in Joe Flacco for about 4 to 5 games, regardless of his performance. Now, if you went 5-0, you're sticking with them.
Bluetooth connected.
But if you are anything other than 5-0, then you'd move on to a rookie quarterback, one of the 2, and you give him another 4 to 5 weeks. And if he is flatlining out and not capable of performing at the level you want, you'd throw in the other quarterback. But in the meantime, what I think also has to be considered is that regardless, you're going to move on from Joe Flacco. And at some point, you're going to have to get ready for either Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders to be your quarterback for the future. When you move that position, you ain't going back to Joe Flacco.
Bluetooth
So that you're eating up this contract Now, I don't know the details of his contract, but you're eating up a contract for a guy, a veteran quarterback, to be on the bench. Now, one of the options you could have done, I would have kept him around a little bit longer because Joe Flacco provides wisdom. He provides knowledge that he could help. And I think it would be worth the investment if you're capable of having him lean back and help with these young guys, coach these young guys. That's one option, and I think maybe it wouldn't have hurt, regardless of what the
Bluetooth
record was for the
disconnected.
Browns,
Bluetooth
if that was the
connected.
case. But I think what people are more upset about, not just trading within division, is you didn't get nothing back for it. You got a draft pick, a late round draft pick, and that's it. So maybe, the only positive, if you're Cleveland, to walk out about, that you could say about this deal is that we gave, someone's taken on the contract of Joe Flacco, but it's not like you're putting that back into somebody else. And it doesn't look like you got something in return.
Bluetooth disconnected.
I'm not saying Joe
Bluetooth
Flacco is worth
connected.
a 1-round draft pick, but I don't think he's worth a 6-round draft pick, nonetheless. So I think the return on investments for me is what got about it. But, look, you could be mad at all you want. I mean, we still needed a quarterback, and it doesn't matter, I guess, there's really no other team right now looking for this quarterback in the position, desire need. I mean, Tennessee is not heading anywhere anytime soon. So this gives us a fighting chance to happen. Look, I got to be honest with you. I think
Bluetooth
Kansas City
disconnected.
and the Chiefs are back.
Bluetooth connected.
I know I referenced them as like the Dodgers of football. It doesn't matter how good. I've been saying this from week one. I don't ever want to lose hope on the Chiefs until they don't make the playoffs, until they don't win or make it to the Super Bowl. The Patriots had years of success, and they weren't always at the Super Bowl each and every year. They've had some ups and downs, and yet they're still able to persevere, battle it through. And that's what we're seeing through Kansas City. They got off to a rocky start. They're coming in. They just won their game on Sunday. They're coming into a Monday night game here this weekend. They're 4-3. They're right up there with the Chargers. Look, the Chargers started the season off 3-0. 3-0. They started off with. I don't know what happened and how it all unraveled, but then now they're 4-3 also. So the team that beat their division all in the first month of the season, they are now 3-4 or 4-3, and they are in second place behind the Denver Broncos, who are 5-2. And the Chiefs are just right behind them at 4-3. I know, crazy, but I do believe that Kansas City's back. I think that they will be giving a nice, good fight for a postseason. They may not win a division, but they're within a game. They still have plenty of season left to prevail. This past weekend, what I took away from the NFL in Week 7, Bucks are learning where they fit in the NFC, and that is they have some work to do. They are behind the Lions, and they are behind the Eagles. They lost some tough games. They're 5-2. They're still in the division, and they're well comfort in their division. I don't see the next team is Carolina at 4-3. Yeah, they're game back, but I mean, look, I'm not saying I'm pushing anything against the Buccaneers, but I think the Lions and the Eagles are up there, and I think those are the two teams that are to beat in the NFL. And I think that brings me around to this question. Who's better in the NFL and the NFC? The Lions or the Eagles? The Eagles had this little mayhap a couple weeks ago with A.J. Brown and his playing and his role for the Eagles. Comes back and they're playing fine, just fine. The Lions, they're 5-2, And the only reason why they're not the number 1 seed is because they lost to the Packers
Bluetooth disconnected.
back in week 1.
Bluetooth connected.
But they've dominated all the other teams. And right now, I think the Lions have nothing to worry about. I don't think that they have, I don't think they have many flaws right now in their system. I think their challenge is the Packers, and I think the Eagles are right behind them. I mean, the 49ers and the Packers have also been quiet in the NFC, and they've just been playing hard football. But in our AFC North, the Steelers are 4-3. They will be hosting the Packers on Sunday Night Football. The Bengals are 3-4. They'll host the Jets at Paycor Stadium at 1:00. The Browns will be at our 2-5. They'll be in New England to take on the Patriots. And the Ravens are 1-5, returning back from a week off as they host the Bears at home at 1 p.m. So week 8 will be around. And with that being said, I think that's all I have for you. So coming up on Thursday, we'll get you guys ready for week number 8 in the NFL, Cincinnati sports this weekend. We'll cover some more stories. If you guys like what you guys are listening to, I appreciate all your support. Head on over to our YouTube page at the TNC Sports Talk YouTube page and hit our subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. Make sure you hit that like, share button as well. And until next time, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.